أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم ففهمنا سليمان وكلنا آتينا حكما وعلما رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم سبحانك اللهم وحنانيك اللهم لا تنسني ولا تنسني الحمد لله عبد الحمد اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آله وسائر نبيين وصالحين وسلم أن وفقني واهدني وسددني واجمع لي بين الصواب والثواب وعذني من الخطأ والهرمان آمين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to another episode of Questions and Answers. I have a little bit of a sore throat brewing, alhamdulillah. So started yesterday sort of mid-afternoon, early evening. I could feel that kind of dryness in your throat as you normally do, and I thought, oh, this is not good. And then as the day ended and the night started, it just got a little bit worse, got a little bit drier. And then I could tell at night I was struggling a little bit. Sleep wasn't, when you get full night's sleep. So I could tell. And this morning got up and felt tired. And so I've struggled through, alhamdulillah, like a soldier. And here I am. Hopefully I've got enough air left and enough throat left to get through this next hour or so. It doesn't help to teach hadith just before as well for a couple hours. So I'm optimistic, inshallah. So I want to be talking less and I want to listen more. So we need those calls in today especially so that I can listen to what you've got to say and then provide some small feedback in return. So let's get the basics out of the way. The phone number to call is 01274 214 299. And the email is q&a@iqra.tv. So they're the housekeeping, as they say, out of the way. You know what number to ring and you know which to send your questions on via email. And I will turn my attention to some of the questions that have come through on our Darul Iftar groups that I have. So it is, on a Thursday, as we know, week is already coming to an end. I was with my son, I think, yesterday evening when we were coming back from madrasa. I picked him up. And on the way down, I said, look, subhanAllah, we were talking about tomorrow and, what's going to happen. And I said, look, another week gone, and never mind, another week gone. March just literally started and we're already like halfway through March. The time it flies, doesn't it, really? We made the announcement for Sha'ban very recently, and we're already now thinking about the 15th of Sha'ban and then thinking about the start of Ramadan. I think I mentioned to you yesterday as well, already the bookings are coming in for Ramadan, for various speeches, for various teaching, for various visits. So, the space is disappearing. And that's really the reality of time, is that it just kind of creeps up on us. People who we knew as children, we're seeing them now as adults and as fathers and mothers themselves, and we kind of look at them and think, this person's a child, but when we ask them, they say they're 25, 26, even then that sounds like a very young age, but when we were 25, 26, we felt we were really old. So it's amazing how perspectives change as we get older. Similarly, when we were in our 20s and 30s, we thought a 40-year-old man or a 50-year-old man was old. Now when we get to that kind of age, we think, nah, I'm still young. There's still plenty of years left, inshallah, before I will consider myself old. So we just keep pushing the boundaries of what we consider to be old age. So anyway, remind you, please, brothers and sisters, I'm going to be regularly sipping the coffee just to keep the throat dry and moist. But if you've got some questions, then pick up the call, pick up the phone, 01274 214 299, and ring your questions through. So in the meantime, as I said, let me just finish off the questions that we have on our group. So I can hear the poor producer trying to survive. I keep telling him he needs to go to the doctors, but he's falling on deaf ears at the moment. So hopefully he will pick that up, inshallah. Anyway, let's go and deal with some questions that we have here. Okay, scroll up, scroll up, scroll up. He's a hard-working man though, mashallah, doesn't know when to stop. Okay, here we are. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. A woman has raised the babies of her neighbor. She is like an aunt for the children. The children are now 13 to 18 years. The woman is 57 years and has been in menopause for a long time. Is it allowed to be with the children? Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. If you're referring to hijab, then, well, she can still be in front of the children as long as she keeps her hair covered and her body covered. She can leave her face uncovered and her hands uncovered because she's literally raised them as a mother, so they will never look at her in that way. So there's no need for her to cover her face. But because she's not mahram to them and she didn't provide milk to them, she should still keep her aura covered. Her aura for a woman is all her body except her face and her hands. So she should continue to do that. I'm assuming from this that these 13 to 18-year-olds, one is a boy, a male, who will now obviously be an adult. So even though she's in her mid-50s, it doesn't really mean anything nowadays. When women do look after themselves, even when they're in their mid-50s, they still can be deemed as attractive. Therefore, she should just cover her aura, and her face and hands can be clear because there's no fear of fitna because she's raised them literally as her own children. And that should suffice. Assalamu alaikum. I would like to know, is there any dua to get married? Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Is what I say to everybody, sister, is that whenever you have some need, some haja, then, perform 2 rakat salatul haja, nafal. Perform it at the end of the night, just before Fajr start time. So let's just say Fajr start time is 4:45. So you're going to get up at 4:45 start time. So get up at 4:15. When you get up at 4:15, make wudu and stand and perform 2 rakat salatul haja. Once you've performed that, then sit down rather, make dua and open your heart out to Allah. These are the times when dua is accepted, and this is the time to make dua and request from Him. Also, make sure that you have not done anything to draw the anger of Allah upon you. Refresh your connection with Allah. So look at the sorts of things you do, and if you're unsure, speak to a local scholar, explain to him your day, or if you can find an alima, even better, explain to her your day, what things you do, and be honest. You get many people who say, Mufsab, I've got this situation, I've got that situation, and you ask them, okay, tell me the sorts of things you do, and they say stuff like, I pray tahajjud, I get up for fajr, I sit in zikr for 4 hours, I recite Quran, and you think, okay, mashallah, you're like a model Muslim. I don't know what's gone wrong. It's like going to the doctors, and the doctor says, oh, you got a problem with your kidneys, and say, what do you eat? Oh, I eat fruit and vegetables all day, I drink 4 liters of water, I don't touch spicy food, I don't touch, fried food. How's a doctor going to diagnose your problem if you're giving false information? So in the same way, when we go to these spiritual doctors, we need to make sure that we be honest with them so they know what our problems are. So they'll say, your dua may not get accepted because of this thing you're doing. So you need to stop doing that thing. Then, like I said, once you've cleared up your relationship with Allah, then you make dua in the manner I showed to you, and you ask Allah, and Allah will give. And remember, there's 3 ways that dua is accepted. One is you get exactly what you asked for. The second way is that there was some musibat coming your way. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala removes that musibat. And the third thing is He gives you something better in the hereafter. I personally want to add a 4th thing, sometimes, and it's more to do with number 3, which is that we may ask for something which we think is good for us, but in reality there may not be khair in it for us. So even though a person might think, look, I'm asking to get married, surely getting married there's khair in it. Well, it might not be. You could end up getting married to a mass murderer or something, or you could end up married to somebody who's such an evil person that he puts you through hardship and pain for 10, 15, 20 years of your life. And then you regret that and you think, subhanAllah, I thought marrying was sunnah, so therefore I did it, but look, I ended up with this particular person who has destroyed my life, and I'm not the same person anymore. And many sisters speak about that. So ask Allah and say, oh Allah, give me what is good for me. Destine for me what is good for me. And inshallah ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will provide a good response. Okay, so alhamdulillah, we have a caller who's called in. My voice can get some rest. They're phoned on 01274 214 299. So assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, dear caller.
हेलो अस्सलाम वालेकुम मैं बात कर सकता हूँ प्रोग्राम में
जी आप फरमाइए जी।
जी
मेरे
मैं
आवाज़
यही बोलना है, मुझे मुझे मैं यही बोलना है, जब कुरान मजीद में जैसा लिखा हुआ है अल्लाह का वार्डर, इस तरीका में हजरत ईसा अलैहिस्सलाम आने के बाद इस धरती पर मस्जिदुल हराम शरीफ, मस्जिदुल नबवी, मस्जिदुल अल-अक्सा उनका अंडर कंट्रोल हो जाएगा ना, सारा दुनिया उनका अंडर कंट्रोल हो जाएगा ना जनाब। अभी जो यूक्रेन रशिया वार हो रहा है ना, वो कैसे बंद करना है। ईसा अलैहिस्सलाम धरती पर आएगा तो रशिया भी इसे ईसा अलैहिस्सलाम का, यूक्रेन भी ईसा अलैहिस्सलाम का, सऊदी भी ईसा अलैहिस्सलाम का, ब्रिटेन भी ईसा अलैहिस्सलाम का, बांग्लादेश भी ईसा अलैहिस्सलाम का, पाकिस्तान भी ईसा अलैहिस्सलाम का, इंडिया भी ईसा अलैहिस्सलाम का, सारा दुनिया ईसा अलैहिस्सलाम का वार्डर में चलना पड़ेगा। इसीलिए तो उनको खुदा को मालूम है, वो ये कुरान का माफिक इस धरती पर आने के बाद वो तो मोहम्मदी उम्मत को आएगा, वो मरेगा, 3 टाइम जिंदा आएगा, वो थ्री टाइम इस धरती पर आएगा हजरत ईसा अलैहिस्सलाम। कुरान
Okay, sorry, we got the idea from that call. Jazakumullah khair. So I'm not sure what the question was, but I think what the brother was saying is that obviously we see the end of days, or what we're seeing is the time of judgment drawing close to us, and obviously we're seeing these wars taking place, for example, in Ukraine and Russia, and how that's going to impact on the rest of the world. Let's first, I mentioned this the last time as well, we need to understand that there's always been wars going on this planet. Just because, the media has not made a big issue of it, that doesn't mean that they don't exist. There's always been wars going on. I mentioned that even after the Second World War, there's been nearly 100 wars that have happened since since Second World War. Just recently, look at Syria, look at Iraq, look at Afghanistan. Look at, these are just 3 countries that I've mentioned that have been in battle and war. And there's many others. Look at Saudi Arabia and Yemen. Look at the Palestinian situation. Everywhere you look, there seems to be battles and wars going on. There's battles going on in Africa between either nations, amongst themselves, or even against one another. So, whether it's the Asian continent, the African continent, the Middle Eastern continent, the reason why this is turning into such a big issue because it's in the European continent. That's the only reason why. And obviously we live in Europe, and therefore it's the message is felt closer to home. Secondly, it's one of the few times where it is, of at least in the last, 50, 60 years, where it's white people fighting white people. That's another difference, whereas up until now, really, it's been white people fighting brown people. So therefore, there's been a racial difference. Here, there's no racial difference. Hence, there's echoes of Second World War, because that's really what happened in Europe, where Europeans were fighting each other. And that's why, and that's reminding people that potentially Europe could, slide into World War III, in the sense that Europe could go into full-scale war. And nobody wants to go into war. That's why war is always, you think it's happening somewhere else. It should happen in the Middle East because people like getting bombed there, or it should happen in Africa because people like, no one likes to be bombed. No one likes to live a life where, there's no electricity, there's no water, you miss your education, there's no schools, there's no hospitals, you lose loved ones. When we were, I was involved in a school, and when you talk about what happened during World War II, where, young children were taken out of London, to the outskirts of London, and the way they, discuss things, and my daughter especially likes history a lot, so she discusses this. But anyway, we'll come back to that because we've got another caller waiting, who was phoned in on 01274 214 299. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, dear caller.
Assalamu alaikum. Wa alaikum assalam. You okay?
Alhamdulillah, sister. Barakallah fiqh. How are you? Yourself? Keeping well?
All right, thank you. Yes, thank you. Quick question. Just wanted to ask, are we allowed as Muslims to go to non-Muslim funerals?
Okay.
Like an English funeral, are we allowed to go?
Jazakumullah khair, sister. Jazakumullah khair. Okay, I'll answer that shortly, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum. So we have another caller. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, dear caller.
Wa alaikum assalam, brother. I'm good. How are you, sir?
I'm very well, thank you. Jazakumullah khair for asking. Yourself? Keeping well?
I'm very well. Javid from North Wales. How
Yes,
are you doing?
mashallah, I'm doing very well, alhamdulillah. Nice to hear from you, my brother.
It's a pleasure to watch you, and you're looking as healthy as ever.
Alhamdulillah.
May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give you a beautiful recovery with your sore throat.
Ameen, ameen, ameen.
And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant you a beautiful, healthy life.
Ameen, ameen. Jazakallah khair for the du'as, my brother, and may he give you better than what you made dua for me.
Jazakallah khair. Love you always.
Ameen.
Just a little reminder.
Sure.
And I hope you don't mind.
No, not at all.
You know, as you said, this is a war between white and white. You know, there's a lot of rubbish going on the WhatsApp. Unfortunately, one of the American reporters said this is not acceptable because this is a war between blue eyes and blonde hair, and this is not Afghanistan or Iraq or Iran. It is so prejudiced, I can't believe it. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I didn't lose my temper. I said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, give this person hidayat. May you give him the blessing of knowing we are all human beings.
Oh, Bishop.
And,
Absolutely.
and you know, the amount of Muslims forget to make these du'as, I can't believe it. Yet they are so busy forwarding this rubbish. I asked one of the brothers who I love, I said, brother, did you make dua when you forward this to me? And he said, Javed, you're 100% right. We should do that. You know, there was time before all these medicine and doctors and everybody, our mothers and our grandparents used to take the sick children outside the mosque, waiting for all the lovely brothers and elders coming out of the mosque. And they used to say, can you just please make dua for my children as well? That is how strength, and that is how much belief we had with the bond with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Absolutely.
You know, now, anyway, the reason I rang was, please don't forget our sisters and brothers who were also blue eyes and blonde hair in Bosnia, and these people never made so much a report as they are making the report, right? When I say these people, I mean, and I actually mean it. I actually say to people, I am a Muslim Welshman, right? Why? Because I lived here all my life, right? But our media is so hypocrite, and we need to lobby our MPs. We need to lobby the people, as I said last time as well. And this is where we lack. You know, so many people are scared to put their name on, you know, when there is a petition and everything. They are scared to give their email address. They're scared to give. You know, what makes me sick is, are they not aware that these mobiles they're recording? Once you have dialed the number and the number has connected for even 5 seconds, it's recorded. And yet when it comes to lobbying, as I said last time, I am so sorry to carry on. You've got a show to run. But I beg you to remind yourself and all our sisters and brothers, our sisters and brothers in Europe were murdered by...
Absolutely. Jazakallah khair, my brother, for that reminder. And it is important, you know, as Muslims, this is one of the beauties of Islam, is that it is a way to be as inclusive, meaning there are no ethnic divisions within Islam. Unfortunately, we bring them in. Let's not shy away from that. But Islam doesn't, you know. So you get a blue-eyed, blonde-haired Sahabi. You get a Persian, brown-skinned, black-haired Sahabi. You get an African Sahabi, curly hair, dark skin, and you get everybody else in between. You know, standing, eating from the same dastakhan, standing in front of Allah on the plains of Arafat, making tawaf, circumambulating the house, the Baytullah. This is the beauty of Islam. It's not divisive. It does not divide people. It brings people together. It finds ways to bond people, not find ways to separate. And the one thing it does, and this is I take as the mukhtasar, as the essence of what our brother was saying, is that it develops equality. And it values humans equally. And this is something which, unfortunately, as a so-called civilized society, as a modern civilized society, we pride ourselves that we've come a long way compared to the 19th century and even in the early 20th century. We've come a long way that we now value humans for what they are. You know, gender issues was still sort of going on even in the early, you know, when a woman wasn't allowed to vote, for example. So, you know, she was held less equal. Her value was less. And, you know, these are the things which Muslims have understood from way back about the value of a human. Even when it comes to an employer-employee, that you're not superior to your employee, you just happen to be in a position that grants you authority over someone. That's all. That does not make you superior to this person. And we saw that so many times in the life of the Prophet ﷺ, in that when delegations of foreigners would come to Medina and they would be directed towards the masjid when they asked to meet the Prophet ﷺ, when they would go there was no way that they could determine who the Prophet was. They saw equality in the brotherhood. They saw all equals, and he had to be pointed out. It's him, or it's him. We saw similarly when Hijrah was being made by Sayyidina Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu and our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And as Hijrah is being made and both companions get close to the outskirts of Medina and the people have come out of the city to welcome the Prophet ﷺ, there's some confusion because the people of Medina can't determine, because they've not met the Prophet ﷺ yet, they cannot determine who's the Prophet, who's the Sahabi. Sayyidina Abu Bakr realizes this, and then he takes his cloak and he uses it as an umbrella to take this direct sunlight away from the Prophet ﷺ. Otherwise, there was no way for him to determine that. And this was always the tradition of the Muslims in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, in the time of Sayyidina Abu Bakr, in the time of Sayyidina Umar, and even in the time of Sayyidina Uthman and Sayyidina Ali. There was that. But very much so in the early periods, the Shaykhain as it referred to, in the early periods, we saw that. But, you know, some of us have lost our values as well. And, you know, human life is sacred. You know, the life, you know, we give this high value to life. You know, Allah gives life, and it's Allah who takes life. We're not the ones who take life. Unless, obviously, that under certain circumstances and conditions, which Allah Himself, who is the taker of life, stipulates that in those conditions. But I said that's too detailed and too complicated to kind of speak of right now. But yes, this hypocrisy that we see is very unfortunate. And we need to find ways, apart from, you know, like the brother said, forwarding things. You know, what's that going to get you? You know, what's the point? You just, you know, do something. Be active. You know, take steps. Take the matter into your own hands. Be proactive. You know, engage with your local MP. Speak to them. They're there for you. They have, you know, clinics where you can go and talk to them. That's why you voted them in. That's their day job. Go see them. Talk to them. You know, find ways to raise this. And it's about equality. You know, if we in a liberal democratic society scream for equality, like we do for the LGBTI community, like we do for people of color, like we do for anybody for that matter, that there should be equal rights for all, then likewise we should, you know, make this stand as well, that there should also be equal rights for all. So it's not that we're going against, you know, our British values. British values stands for equality, so we should hold people to account to that. Anyway, I'm conscious we're going to go into break soon, so I'm going to answer the sister's question. The sister asked the question that, can you visit a funeral of a non-Muslim person? Now, if the funeral is a religious practice, then no, one can't attend. So one has to avoid that. If there's something taking place in a church where prayers are read, and then obviously the person is buried, and there's prayers read at the grave, then one can't. If it's a social event, as in you're going to go see the family of the person that's died, because they were close to you, then there's some permissibility. But bear in mind the issue of mahram, and you know, keep that in mind. And obviously, you know, bear in mind that usually when people go to what's called a wake, which is more of a social event after the burial or the cremation, that there tends to be alcohol there, there tends to be free mixing there tends to be haram food on display. So as long as you make your conditions clear to this person, see them maybe 3-4 days after, visit them. So if you have a friend and her mother passes away, or you have a friend and her father passes away, you can go see her 3-4 days later, where there is going to be nothing like that in her house, and say your commiserations and consolations to her. Anyway, we're going to go for a short break. When we return after the short break, there will be some more questions and answers. I thank my brothers and sisters for calling because it gave some rest to my voice. Speak soon. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.